Money goes through our state housing finance agency, and I think the housing finance agency will proceed with designing a program, getting approval from the feds, and getting it implemented. But it could be better. It would be more effective and could work better if, in fact, we had the state legislation in place. I mean, for the reasons I mentioned. You know, mediation could encourage more workouts. Counselors could guide homeowners through the process. Regulating servicers, so you have a little bit of a stick along with the carrot of federal money, could work together to encourage more loan modifications. So, and as Representative Celeste points out, this, you know, the tenants need protection regardless. There's nothing in there's nothing that fills that hole in state legislation.
Foley, would you give up the moratorium?
Yeah, who invited you?
Yes, we would be willing to negotiate something with the Senate. We simply want them to bring something forward to act on what they've been presented with and give us, like Representative Foley said, give us something to talk about, give us something to move on. I want to talk a little bit, though, about the economic development impact of this. I think it's interesting that people suggest that this foreclosure crisis can be dealt with through getting people jobs and improving the economy. Well, we're all in favor of improving the economy as well, but it ignores the impact of the foreclosure on the economy in the small business districts in these neighborhoods. I'm a small business owner. I will tell you right now, the foreclosure crisis is impacting my business and my business district because people are moving out, property values are going down, it's becoming a more blighted area, and it impacts my business. So there are already impacts to economic development. The foreclosure crisis is making it worse. So while we may approach this with things like the third frontier, for instance, things that generate dollars in our economy, encourage new businesses, this crisis, you can't ignore the economic impact of allowing it to continue and not addressing these issues. Because it's very important for businesses on the ground in the local communities.
The Senate did, right before they left, did move on the land bank legislation. Can you speak to, you know, at least something has passed? How does that help in terms of foreclosure process problem and in terms of
that's a good point. And, the land bank legislation was a positive push by the Senate to bring it back over to the House, which we concurred in. But it's also a bill that had been, you know, we had the land bank in Cuyahoga County. There's a little bit more comfort level with, on the Senate side in terms of that as a concept. And it will help, but the land bank legislation will help in terms of abandoned and vacant properties in the larger counties in the state. But this is trying to get to folks before we get to that crisis of abandoned and vacant properties in the state. This is trying to prevent that that vacant land from even occurring. So this is helping people where they're at right now. We've got an economic problems in the state. It's affecting people's abilities to live in their homes. And this legislation, both in the House Bill 9 and House Bill 3, will help prevent some of the crises that are occurring on a daily basis. In Cuyahoga County, we had 14,000 foreclosures last year. Since the passage of House Bill 3 in the House last year, I think that probably about 12 to 13,000 foreclosures that occurred in Cuyahoga County. This legislation would have been passed early on. There would have been a lot more resources available to help people from being foreclosed on and statewide solutions. And I should say this also, that through the House process, we had about 2.5 months worth of 3 months worth of testimony. In the Senate, they've had a couple of hearings. The vast majority of people who come in front of our communities have supported this legislation, some iteration of this legislation. The only folks who have not are the Mortgage Bankers Association and the Illinois Bankers League. They're the only ones that are having problems. Raises concerns with me that this legislation is not getting passed out of the Senate when those are the only two entities that are opposing the legislation, given that the vast majority of